Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is, what is today's topic? Let me just check here. Today's topic is letting go of being right. So, our experiences reflect our inner state. And I noticed over a couple conversations this past week that there were issues around being right. And I recognized that there must be something going on with me in regard to that. So that's where our topic today comes from. But before we get started, let's take a couple minutes to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs, and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your molecules, all your electrons, all your cells, and creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's rub our palms together vigorously to feel the energy, the friction, the temperature. And as you release your palms, feel the buzzing and the tickling and tingling of all that energy moving, and allow that to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, Rosalind. So good to see you here this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today we're talking about letting go of being right. And so it was interesting. It was interesting in, like I said, in a couple conversations, I became really aware of the person that I was talking to, their need to be right. And so what I recognize is that if I'm identifying that, then there's something going on with me about needing to be right. And so that's where this conversation's coming from, to look at what is it that's driving this need to be right, and what does it mean to let go of that need? And what would that look like to let go of the need to be right? And so what is arising for me is the possibility of truly stepping into someone else's perspective. And, it's interesting in that dynamic. It goes into identity, I think, because we identify with our beliefs, we identify with our perspectives, and this notion of being right means I know the truth. And if you don't agree with me, then you're misinformed or you don't know the truth. And I talk a lot about interacting with life as hypothesis. But I notice that there's a level of ego that, and by ego, I mean maybe partly sense of self, that that is intimately connected with our notions of what's true and our perspectives on the world. And in looking at that, what occurs is that those perspectives, or our conviction about those perspectives, I think may be tied to our deep desire to be able to try and navigate the world, to try and understand the world. And that's why perhaps when our vantage points are challenged, we experience it as a threat to our construction of reality. And therefore, it can be experienced as a deeply destabilizing influence to release our attachment to being right, or to knowing how things are, to knowing what the truth is, because it's how we construct our world, and based on that construction, that's how we determine how to be in the world. So, this is all hypothetical, but it seems like our investment in being right is very deeply tied to our sense of safety, our sense of understanding how things are, and our moral code and our values, and justifying ourselves and our way of being and our perspectives. And it's very interesting because we experience our perceptions as real. We experience our view of things as true, typically. And when someone else's perspective doesn't jive with our own, it threatens us on some level. It threatens our sense of truth. It threatens our sense of orientation, actually, in the world. If my perceptions aren't accurate, then what can I'm basing my response to the world on my perceptions. And if my perceptions aren't accurate, then how do I navigate? It's challenging. So I'm wondering if any of this is connecting for you, if it's making sense, that will kill the messenger, so to speak, if someone is presenting information that threatens our sense of the status quo. And how do we navigate more gracefully in arenas where there's disagreement? It's really interesting. I had this conversation with a friend who said, I'm going to convince you that I'm right about this, this perspective. And it was interesting because I I got to look at, we were, believe it or not, we were talking about the definition of sustainability. And we have different perspectives on that word. And in common parlance, sustainability is being able to maintain without creating harm. And I sort of extrapolate that to be looking at our current systems and recognizing that they're not sustainable. And the word sustainability has kind of fallen into not disrepute, but it has lost favor in the face of the word regeneration. And to me, we need to regenerate in order to be sustainable. But anyway, it was really, really interesting. And what came up for me is that I recognize that I am choosing to define the word sustainability in this grander context. And so for me, that's the definition. And I get that there are other perspectives on the word. But I just found it so interesting because we both recognize that we're in alignment around this whole regeneration thing, but there was this determination to create agreement. And it almost felt like force, like there was this intention to overpower and dominate. And so this is another thing that I've been noticing in some conversations lately. So it made me look at what's my inclination to overpower and dominate. Because the world that we're seeing is a reflection of what's going on with ourselves in many ways. Doesn't mean that the dynamic that we're perceiving doesn't exist, but I tend to believe that it's a reflection. So I was going to call today's session Unraveling, because I'm looking at these dynamics and sort of teasing them apart for myself and looking at what are these patterns of, not just in me, but culturally, but in me too, these patterns of domination and control and overpowering and opposition, and I think that as we've become more aware, we also become more aware of how nuanced all of this can be, that this how deeply ingrained some of these patterns are of domination and control, and how easily threatened we can be when there's a challenge to our belief, and how stringently and stridently and rigorously we defend our being right. So all of this is part of the conversation about what it might take to create greater communion, to build bridges of connection and communication, to find ways to transcend our differences and find alignment with one another, to find connection and compassion. And part of that is by rooting out the embedded and ingrained patterns that we function from, most often unconsciously. So to bring these patterns to awareness is very confronting. It's confronting and also really important. It's confronting because it results in an unraveling, to be letting go of being right. It moves us into a place of uncertainty and the unknown. And the unknown is a place that most people find tremendously frightening or threatening. So Rosalind says there was a lot of that during distancing measures. A lot of which exactly, Rosalind? I'm not sure. Probably domination and control, right? And assertion of I know what's right. And it's interesting because one of the people that I was having this conversation with, where the domination thing was coming up, was relating to a community that we're looking to put together, and the screening process for people coming into that community. And it was really interesting because the premise was that the desire was to have people who were free thinkers in the community. And yet there were certain perspectives and beliefs that were being held as the measure of free thought. And I just find it fascinating to be looking at how we we might be advocating for free thought, but if someone doesn't agree, then we're we're saying that they're not free thinking. There's certain paradoxes. I mean, we get to look more deeply than the surface in our assessments, like to question our foundations, to question the way that we come to conclusions, to question the way that we actually think, in order to free ourselves to generate something new. There are certain assumptions that we guide ourselves by that are invisible, that impact all of our perspectives. And the way that we can make those dynamics visible is by saying, wow, how did I come to that conclusion? What's underlying that? So in a conversation that I was having, I was telling somebody about something that I was excited by. Good morning, Bernadette. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. We're talking about letting go of being right, and how that can start to unravel certain perspectives on the world that may be keeping us limited. And it's challenging. Anyway, Where was I going with this? Oh, so I was sharing something with someone and I was really excited about it. Just like, oh, all these synchronicities, and who knows, there could be something really possible out of this. And I was generating these new ideas, and their response was, instead of their response being, oh, that sounds amazing, good luck with that, their response was, be careful. And Bernadette says, Grandma always said, do what you want to be right, or do you want to be right, or do you want to be heard? Yay, Grandma Bernadette. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be heard? Or do you want to be right, or do you want to communicate? Right? Same idea. Thank you for that. And Rosalind says, the question one could ask self, what is it that you're truly frightened of? Is it fear, shame, or blame behind it? Exactly. So here I was all excited. And this person says, be careful. And I was like, thank you for that. And that wasn't really the response that I would have hoped for. It's like, well, so where is be careful coming from? Is it coming from invoking fear? Caution is fear, right? Or is it that I'm not circumspect enough to, because the person said, well, I know you're really enthusiastic, and I don't want your enthusiasm to carry you away and make poor decisions. And I said, so it's not fear as much as thinking that I don't have the discernment to evaluate this opportunity appropriately. So here they said, no, it's just good wishes. And I'm still trying to twist my head around to be able to understand that it's good wishes. So Bernadette says, I think it comes from one's experience of things not working out. It's about them, not you. Exactly. So Bernadette, it was their projection, maybe of their own enthusiasm, where they have gone ahead and made choices that were not super well informed. But it's very interesting. They were projecting this on me, and I just they wouldn't see that. I really wanted them to get, hey, either you're projecting your fear on me, or you're saying that I am not discerning enough, that you're concerned that I might end up in a bad space, but that's projecting fear, right? And they totally refused to see it. And after a point, it's like, I can't make them see that. I can't, and I recognized my need to be right also in that perspective, to say, yeah, you know what, this is what I see. This is what's going on here. And there's something available here for you if you choose to receive it. But that they didn't. And I got to be looking at that whole dynamic and my need to be right in the context, is like, I tend to look underneath. So I'm looking underneath for myself as well, around being aware, being perceptive, that's how I make my living, is looking underneath things. And so part of me really felt like I had to assert that, And finally I was able to say, okay, well, not being received. And still part of me came away saying, looking at it, still looking at it, and saying, well, is there another way to be looking at this, that it is purely good wishes? But when we say be careful, it's because we know there's danger, or we believe there's danger, right? Whether we're cautioning someone to pay greater attention, or we're projecting our own fear, or some other combination of things. I'm still toying with it, as you can tell, but I found it really interesting and important to be looking at my need to assert myself, and how that might be dominating others, or trying to control others as well. So I think it's valuable for us to recognize these possibilities, these potentials in ourselves, so that we can unravel them and free ourselves from them, and ultimately become more present. And it's confronting to consider that, wow, maybe I'm engaging in this behavior that I'm finding objectionable, right? So Bernadette says, I'd carry on with the plan, because just because it didn't work for them doesn't mean it won't work for me. I act and think differently for situations. The beauty of all being different. 100%, Bernadette. I'm not letting their be careful influence, like I'm still tuning into my own direction and knowing, because that's the most reliable thing that I have. And I am aware and cautious. So anyway, it's just a very interesting dynamic. Yes. With that, I'm going to wrap it up for this morning. So much love and appreciation to you. Thank you for engaging in these conversations. And I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, EWN One with the Earth, and Enlightened World Living. Again, so much love, and I hope to see you again here